Hey, what's up, guys? I am super excited for our special guest today. It's a good friend of mine. His name's Jordan Colle, and you may not recognize that name, but if you go to Beltway, if you attend our services, you actually have been affected by him and you don't even know. He is a co-artist and co-writer on the song "Tear Off the Roof," which we've been singing a lot the last few months over here at Beltway. And recently, we've been singing his new song called "Can't Help But Praise." And that's been a joy bomb anthem that we've been singing over here. And so I'm excited for you guys to meet Jordan. What's up, man?
Hey dude, how's it going?
It's going
Thank you.
great. So I'm excited to
Solid
talk with
intro.
Jordan today, just to talk about his experience as a worship
Yeah.
leader and seeing the Lord move in his life, but also stepping into that calling of who God has made him to be and
Mm,
walking in that purpose. And so, Jordan, you just had your second kid.
yeah.
So how's dad life going right now?
Well, hopefully I don't look too tired.
Have
It's
you been
great,
getting
man.
any
It's
sleep at all?
yeah, I mean my wife's the true superhero, as most dads know, but yeah, it's a lot different. Like with the first one, it's like pure bliss. You're just like laying in bed all day and you're just watching them sleep. They sleep all day. You're like watching movies with your wife, and you're just hanging out, doing nothing. And then the second one, you got a 2.5-year-old running around, and so there's
Oh my gosh.
not much laying in bed and chilling.
No
So
free time.
it's been a whirlwind of a month. He's just over a month old. So
Wow.
um, yeah, but it's awesome, dude. I mean, it's the best. It's such a gift and makes you evaluate yourself in a lot of different ways. And but it's a beautiful thing. So
That's sweet. Like
yeah,
we were talking about earlier, I'm recently married,
yep,
about 8 months in, and we're not quite ready to have kids yet, but I am
yeah,
excited for
yeah,
that day. Um,
yeah. It's we waited. I mean, we got married young, so I was 23 and she was 22. Um, and so we waited like almost 7 years
wow.
before we got pregnant. So Um, and it's great. I mean, it's like, when you get married young, there's pros and cons, right? It's like you are young and adventurous and full of faith and willing to do whatever, and God calls you here, you go, and you just don't even think twice about it. And but you're also growing up in front of someone's eyes with no um, with like it's just very like vulnerable.
Yep.
And so, we've been through a lot together because we've had to grow up together. Um, but there's also beauty in that. You get really close really fast, and um, there's zero hiding of like who you
Yep.
really are
Yep.
and who you're really becoming. Um, and it's cool to see the fruit of it now. You get to see like man, like the woman of God that she's really become, and hopefully the man of God that I've really become. And
Yeah.
so you get to see the transformation, which is vulnerable, but I think it brings you together in a way that's unique. So
Yeah. That's super sweet. I keep telling
yeah,
everybody that marriage is the best, most fun, and most difficult thing that
oh
I've
yeah,
ever
oh yeah,
experienced. So it's a blast. But before we jump in, I want to ask, just as a worship leader myself,
yeah.
and I'm kind of fangirling over here.
So
What, like, can you tell us maybe one of your favorite all-time, most memorable moments of leading worship, just the opportunities that you've had over the years? If
yeah,
you want to share that with us.
yeah. The first thing that comes to mind is I went to a out of high school. I went to a worship school called Ocean's Edge,
Okay.
um, and it's down in South Florida. I grew up in the Calvary Chapel world, so like I don't know if you know that world at all,
Yeah.
but it's like Chuck Smith out like West Coast, like hippie movement back in the day, and kind of started this whole Calvary Chapel movement. And so I grew up in Florida, and I grew up in a Calvary Chapel. It was a smaller one, probably like 500-600 people, um, and um, so I heard about Ocean's Edge through my brother, and it's basically like a ministry school. It's not like accredited or anything, but you can go as a drummer, bass player, worship leader, basically anything. And they all sorts of things from like, learning how to read music, learning how to write music, like actual like notation to like
Wow.
learning how to use Ableton. um, planning worship sets. And so they had like a bunch of campuses. So we got put in bands. And so you would go and lead with your band on a Sunday and different stuff. It was really cool. It was just like really good, like getting your feet wet, as like an 18-year-old, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but I went to the school as a drummer with no intentions
No
of really
way.
leading worship. Yeah. I mean, I had sang and played guitar, and my grandfather and my dad and my brother, who my older brother, all have led worship. My grandpa, like, that's what he did his whole life. Was
Wow.
like he was what me and you do. He was a worship leader. I mean, they called it, I think, music minister back then, but in Texas and Oklahoma and in Florida. Um, and so it's kind of just like in the blood a little bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
that's cool.
yeah, really cool. And so I always played guitar and sang and tried to write songs, and they were mainly like, you know, songs about the Lord or like songs about whatever I was dealing with in middle school and high school, and
We've all been
didn't
there.
really say what.
I said we've all been there.
Yeah, yeah, just like sad and just whatever. But yeah, but I don't know. I just kind of felt like leaving high school, I kind of just want to be a drummer. And yeah, and kind of the Lord, I mean, just kind of opened up some opportunity for me to lead at the school in like some smaller capacities. And um, long story short, I led it this like our end of the year like worship night, basically. And to answer your question, that moment was probably the most profound in a lot of ways. Like, I don't know if this is like strange to say, but it was kind of like an outer body experience. Like, it was like I remember being up there leading. It was the first time I've led in like a like big room. Like, it was probably like 1,000 people there. It was just
Well,
like at the time, it was like it's a lot of people. Like,
yeah.
and it was I've kind of always been one to just kind of be very much in the moment and not really leave anything behind and kind of like wherever I feel like the Lord's going, I'm just gonna kind of go for it. And it was the first time that I really put that into practice in a setting like that. And I remember like it's strange, but I remember like almost seeing myself leading. Like it was almost like I was looking down on myself leading in this room, and which sounds strange,
Yeah.
and it's like kind of like a weird. Nothing like that's ever happened to me. Like it wasn't like a and it honestly I'm curious now if it was like that's how I remember it. If I It's like how I remember it from that viewpoint, or if I was really having this like crazy moment. Um, but all that to say, it was obviously very profound, and it
Yeah,
was
for
like
sure.
this is what I'm supposed to do, and about a month before that, I was in like a vocal lesson. 'Cause I started taking vocal lessons at the school because I was starting to lead more. And I was telling my vocal teacher, I was like, I think I want to lead worship, but like I just don't like. I want to do what's like right. I want to do what I feel called to do. Like if that's drums, then I want to do drums. If that's worship leading, then I want to do worship leading. And she was like, let's just flip the Bible open and just first thing we see, we read. And I was like, okay. So I just flipped it open and it opened up to Isaiah 61:1, which has now become like my life verse, if you will. Um, but it basically is just like you've been called to like proclaim the good news and to set the captives free. And
Yeah.
um, it's just this whole list of like incredible things that we're called to do. And it just felt very like um, it was like very like emotional moment as like a 18-year-old.
Wow.
Um, and that kind of put me on the trajectory of leading worship more and putting the drumsticks down, which was
That's a
challenging at the time, but
sacrifice.
yeah, it just kind of felt like it was the right thing. And I mean, for the topic of the conversation, that was kind of a big turning point for me. So
Wow. That's a really good vocal teacher to say, "Hey,
yeah,
let's
she's
let's
incredible.
flip
Her
the
name's
Bible open."
Jessica Busboom.
That's
Great last
awesome.
name.
Great last
Um,
name.
yeah, and she's an incredible vocalist and a
Yeah.
great teacher. I mean, I feel like I there's no chance I would be able to sing the way I do today without her. So it was very impactful in a lot of ways. So,
Yeah, that's incredible. The cool thing I think about that, in even talking about Isaiah 61, about how this is our calling to spread the good news, and I think that's part of the reason why I asked you to be on this podcast is because I see that in you on another level that people may not see
mhm.
at first glance. Like, my wife and I went to a concert that Jordan was participating in, and it led us in
Mhm.
worship in a few songs. And the cool thing I noticed about Jordan right away is not only was he just a musician that was on stage leading us in worship, but after the show, Jordan was in the foyer of the arena, and
Mhm.
was just saying hey to people and ministering to people and praying for people. And
Yeah.
I was thinking about that. I'm like, there, you and the band and everybody part of the production team could be like, you have a million things to do. Y'all are packing up to go to another city the next
Yeah.
night. And,
Yeah.
but for you to just have conversations with people and speak life into people and to pray into people just like showed me right away that, hey, he's not doing this just as a musician and
Mhm.
just doing this to have fun, but you're doing this because the Lord has called you to minister to people.
Yeah.
And, the Lord gives all of us different gifts, whether that's musical gifts or creative gifts or whatever gift that you are currently operating in. That's from the Lord, but He's calling us to a greater purpose. He's calling
Yeah.
us
Absolutely.
to use that for His glory. And so, um,
Yeah.
in
And
that, yeah, go ahead.
sorry, just the cool thing about that scripture is there's not really anything about like, oh, like go lead worship.
Yeah,
It's more so just like this is what you're called to do. And for me, it felt clear that like in order to do that, what he's calling us to do in that scripture, for me, that avenue was worship leading. And um, to, to your point, it's like I always want to keep the main thing, which is like
yeah,
the people. And um, you know, I have to remember, and I kind of always pull from, those moments that the Lord met me and like ministered to me and changed my life. And I just, yeah, I wanted those nights to feel like ministry and not just like, oh, that's like a cool, talented guy on a stage.
yeah. It's a
Like
concert.
that's great. I mean, a lot of people there's a lot of people that are more talented than me and that are better vocalists than me. It's like, and that write better songs than me. It's like, there's always going to be somebody better than you, and like, but I just always want it to be, um, relational,
Yeah,
and like,
it's
what would
huge.
Jesus do? Jesus probably would have went out to the foyer and talked to people and prayed for people. It's not like it's not a mind-blowing concept. It's just I I just hope that I can always try to keep that the forefront. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, super sweet, super intentional. We were definitely blessed by that. And so,
glad
a question that I have for you, if
I
you
was
should,
too. I mean, that's the beautiful part of it too.
yeah, it was
I was
such
just
good
yeah, just like
conversations, and
it's it's yeah, it's like you're blessing people, but like they don't know how much you're blessing them too,
yeah,
hearing their stories and
come on,
all that. So anyway, sorry.
you're good. So, you were talking about how that journey began and you hearing from the Lord of, okay, this is something that I want to do and pursue, not just like as a hobby, but this is like God's call for my life. And so, as you experienced that, what what fears or doubts did you come across in that process, and how did you push through those and pursue the
Yeah.
calling that God had in your life?
Yeah. All I did, it was just easy from that point. I just like, yeah, I was fearless and just never had any issues. And
Never, ever.
yeah, just, it was like, next thing you know, I'm here. No, it's, that's where the journey really began. I
Yeah,
mean, it's, at that, from that point forward, it was, and I've had like people like when I was young, like speak over my life and like give me words of like, you know, I like see you doing this and I see your songs reaching these people and doing this. And you're like 16 years old and you're like, you don't even know how to fully comprehend what people are saying. And
yeah,
um, so you're kind of living in this place of I know the Lord has something for me, but um, at the same time, you're just trying to do the trying to do your best, and you're dealing with the same things that every other 18-year-old dude is dealing with, and um, you're just trying to figure out life, and um, so really the whole journey began there, and it just became season after season of just pruning. I mean, it's like right when you feel like you got something figured out, there's another thing that the Lord wants to deal with, and um, right when you feel like you got that figured out, there's another layer, that you're peeling back, and um, the pruning is beautiful and welcomed at times, and also uh, you want to lose your mind at
It's
times. You're
hard.
like, am I ever going to be able to be at a place where I feel like you start to just like doubt yourself. You're
Yeah.
like I think the big thing with all that is just he always wants us to lean on him.
Yeah.
And it's like I was just thinking about this the other day. I mean, like I was just telling my wife Amanda, I was like, he always finds a way for me to remember that I have to trust him.
Well,
Like no matter how much I feel like I've maybe figured out or how well I feel like I might be doing spiritually, and I feel confident about songwriting or this or that or the songs that I have or the way that I'm leading worship or like all that stuff. It's like yeah, and like that's great because I've worked really hard to get to a place where I can feel a little more confident in the gifting, and my walk with the Lord is good. And it's like, yeah, there's been a lot of pruning to get to this point
yeah, for
today,
sure.
but there's still this he just still always finds a way to be like, you still need me deeply.
Wow.
And it's been a wild journey with a lot of doubt and a lot of fear of just like, are you sure this is what I'm supposed to do? I mean, it was January of last year that I was like, maybe maybe it's time for me to reevaluate. You know what I
Wow.
mean? Like I was I was at a church for 7 years leading worship and kind of felt the call to kind of just maybe move into more of this like song, like focusing more on songwriting, and um, just was getting more opportunity with it and the artistry side of things, and just kind of felt like it was time for me to kind of step out a little bit and see what that was about. So I went to my pastor and was like, "Hey, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking." This was, I don't know, probably 5 years ago. And he was like, "Yeah, how can we help?" And so I went to more like a contract role and was leading like twice a month at my church, and um, gave me the time and the space to kind of like take trips to Nashville and pursue other opportunities that I was getting. And um, I would love to say that like overnight things just started clicking and happening, but that was not the case. It
Yeah.
was like a lot of hard work and a lot of like um, moments laying in bed being like, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
And
Like, what did I just
um,
do?
yeah, it's like what like but it just felt like it was he also the Lord is also really good about leaving little, if you're paying attention, he he leaves little reminders that you're on the right
Yeah,
track,
for sure.
um, and he he knows the doubt will be there, and he wants you to keep trusting him. He wants you to keep leaning on him. And so there was little breadcrumbs along the way of him just reminding me that this is the right thing. And um, yeah, it was January of last year that I was like, you know what? Like, if this is what you want me to keep doing, I'm down. But also, if I need to hang it up, if you will, or just not pursue this as much, reevaluate. I'm married. I got a kid. We want to have another kid. This was at the time, and um, I was like, I'm okay. Like, I don't need. Like, yes, I'd be sad if like I don't pursue this as much anymore in some way, but at the same time, like, I just became okay with the outcome. Very like open-handed of like I can hold both. I can hold in one hand the um, the years and years of people speaking over my life and the opportunities and the people that I look up to encouraging me and saying like you can do this and I see this on your life and you know all that stuff. I can hold all that in one hand and also hold in the other that like dude, God doesn't owe me anything.
Well,
Like, you know what I mean? And like I got to a place where I was okay with whatever the outcome was going to be. And um yeah, like a week later Brandon called and things changed, but um it was a very uh, pivotal time, you know, about a year ago. So
wow. That's a cool place to be in, of just realizing kind of what you said earlier, that the relationship with people, like that's why we do what we do,
totally.
and we do it all for the glory of God. And so holding that open-handed and just saying, Lord, I don't want to put the ministry above you. Like I don't want
Yeah.
to put um, the gifting above you. Like this is
Yeah.
all
And
for you.
yeah, I don't want to put like, especially like my family. It's like, you know, they're number one priority. And so if I feel like what I'm pursuing is robbing them of me too much, like obviously there's sacrifice and
For sure.
that is what it is. But like, if I feel like it's not bearing enough fruit for me to keep sacrificing, then I need to reevaluate.
Yeah,
And that's really the what I came down to. And but the cool thing about being a dad is that you see the Lord in it in so many different ways. Like I can't help but give like gifts to my kid. Like
yeah,
I can't help but love him. I can't help but like do things for him and like want him to succeed. And so as much as the Lord doesn't owe me anything, he wants to give me things and he wants to give
absolutely.
us things. You know what I mean? And so it's a tension to live in of like, you know, in that moment it was like you don't owe me anything and I am okay with that. But he also responds with, I love that about you, but also I want to give you this. And um, maybe he was waiting for me to get to that point, and that's when things started changing a little bit for me. But um, you know, I was 31 and I was like, this might
I'm
not be for me. You know
I'm
what I
good
mean?
either
Like,
way. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, I don't know, you know? So
What's cool about that is our lead pastors, David McQueen and Jeffrey Turner here, a big thing that they teach on is that God wants the absolute best for us. But
totally.
at the same time, like we have to depend on him. And so I
Absolutely.
think that's so cool. Like I can, how many stories do you hear of where somebody just gets to that point where they're like, you know what? I just give this to you. I surrender this to you. I think this is what you're speaking over my life, but I'm gonna trust you even though I don't know what the outcome is. And as
Yeah.
soon as you make that surrender decision, God's like, man, that's what I've been waiting for,
Mm,
and here's the
yeah.
blessing that comes from that surrender.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've never been one to like force myself into things or like force myself into situations or um probably sometimes to a fault. It like maybe comes it could come across as like not confident or insecure. But really it's like I just don't want to go unless he's going. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And so really it was like a year ago it was also that. It was like I don't want to keep doing this if you're not in this. You know what I mean? Like I want to keep doing this if you're in it. And if you're in it, I'm down to keep working hard and to keep doing what it is you've called me to do. And I don't need X amount of success for it to be successful to me.
yeah,
Um, but if you're not really in it anymore, then that's when it's like, okay, let's reevaluate, you know. Um, but he had other plans. So,
that's sweet. It's just like Moses in Exodus saying to God, like, if your spirit's not going, I don't
yeah,
want to go.
absolutely. I
And
mean,
I don't
yeah,
want to
that's
take
like,
one step without you. It's so
and
good.
like how like not life-giving would it be?
Mm.
You know, it's like I want this to be, I want my ministry and my life to be fruitful for not just me, but for like my family and the people around me. And, you know, I don't want to just do it because I enjoy it. You know, it's like I want it to be ministry. I want it to be fruitful, you know?
Yeah.
So,
And even walking in our calling and taking that step of faith and saying, okay, God, this is where you're calling me to. But that reminder of like, if you're not a part of it, I don't want
Mhm.
anything to do with it.
Yeah.
And that's so sweet. So tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about, that pivotal season early last year.
Yeah.
Give our audience that may not know your story, give us
Yeah.
some insight into that.
Yeah. So I mean, that conversation with the Lord happened literally in this chair in this basement of my
Wow.
house. Um, and it was like emotional, and it was like freeing, and but also it was hard. Like I was like, man, this is like, because in the same breath, it's like this is all I want to do, and this is all I like. Like I love leading worship, and I love writing songs, and I like it's really all I want to do. But at the same time, it was like, okay, like sacrifice for the family, sacrifice for what I feel it might be right. And anyway, I've been friends with Brandon Lake for a long time, and before he was, you know, huge, I guess
I
if
know.
you will.
Before we
Um,
started singing all of
yeah,
his
before you
songs.
guys knew who he was just my friend that I led worship with, and um, I sent him a text because we've like stayed connected obviously through the years, and wrote "Tear Off the Roof" together, and like wrote some other songs on this previous record or whatever. And so um, he's just always been kind of a mentor. Like when we were leading worship together, he's the one that kind of taught me like how to write worship songs. Like
Wow.
really just kind of mentored me in that space. And so um, I just like shot him like a voice text and was like, "Hey, dude, just be praying. Like I don't really know. I just kind of basically what I just told you. Like
Yeah.
just not really sure what I'm going to be doing, and I still want to do this, but it's got to look different. Like I that was the other thing I told the Lord. I was like, if you want me to keep doing this, like it has to look different because I can't keep grinding to the way that I have been for my family's sake. Like we're just at a different season. I'm at a different season in my life. I'm not 25 anymore, and I can just pack up and go write songs in Nashville for a week and lead worship at this thing and make $200. And it's like, and all those things were the right thing at the time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they were part of the calling. Like, but I was just I'm in a different season, and so I have to like things can't look like that anymore. You know what I mean? Like, and so I was just telling all this to Brandon, and he sent me like a long voice text back, and was just like, "Dude, I'll be praying for you. Like, I still believe in you. I still feel like the Lord has more for you. Like, it was just really encouraging, and I which is great. But in the moment, I was like, okay, like, thank you, but I don't still don't fully know what I'm gonna do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, um, and he ended up calling me like the next day. We talked for a while, and he was like, "What do you think about maybe like?" He's like, "We're about to go on this tour in the spring. This was last year, the Tear Off the Roof tour,
Yep.
and he's like, the rooms are a little bigger. I could use some help, like vocally, just like maybe just jump in the band." And like, he's like, "I know it's not necessarily exactly what you want to do, but like, you could." Just give us some time to like be together and to hang out and to maybe talk about what's next for you. And so I was like, well, give me 24 hours. I got to talk to my wife. So I was like, I've never gone on tour before ever. So I was like, I have no idea what this entails. And I just, yeah, obviously my wife was very supportive and was down. And next thing I know, I'm on a plane to Charleston for rehearsals. And
Wow.
I have like no idea what my role is going to be. Like, it's like, there's already a guy in the band that plays acoustic and does BGVs.
Andy,
Like, yeah,
so
Andy
great.
Cherry. And so, the cool thing about Brandon's band is like, it's been his band since day one.
Yep.
Like, no one's been added to it. So I'm the only one that's new. They've all been in his band for like years now. And like, we all kind of know each other because they're all from like, the cool thing too is like, they're all people from like different seasons of his life. They're not like random people.
Yeah.
Granted, they're all super talented and the band's
Oh, very.
unbelievable, but like, but they're all like there's like a friendship or like I knew this person from this season and blah blah. So I wasn't necessarily random, but I was a new ad.
You're kind of
And
feeling like an outsider at some.
yeah, yeah, and I was just kind of like I I was like on the plane because my wife and my son came with me to the rehearsals because we just like all hung out for the week and
That's
stayed with
sweet.
at Brandon's place and just kind of hung out. And I was on the plane flying there, and I had my headphones in. My son had finally fallen asleep, and I was just praying. I was like, just reveal to me what the band needs. Like reveal to me like what is it that this tour needs that I could provide.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not trying to like get up there and like show that I can do this and that. Like, I just want to like be useful and like be helpful. It's not my show. It's not my worship night. It's not my name on the ticket. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
I'm here to support. And so, um, and honestly, I to this day, I don't think Brandon knew what I was going to do either. I just think he knew that I was supposed to be there. And so,
That's
the cool
super
thing about
sweet.
him is like, um, he's, you know, we're similar in a lot of ways, but like, he's very much just like, this feels right. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Um, And on top of that too, is like I don't want to step on Andy's toes. You know what I mean? Like he's doing his thing and like I'm just trying to be helpful. And so but I don't want to like, start singing his part when he's supposed to be singing it. And it's like just like logistically, like
Yeah.
what am I gonna
Practical
do? You know what
stuff.
I mean? Yeah, practical things of being in a band. And um the rehearsals were going. It's going great and I'm just singing along and you know, talking with Andy about should I do this? Should I do what part are you doing? Should I sing here? And
I saw you had
uh,
a tambourine at one point.
yeah, yeah, and like things just evolved. Like basically things just evolved to like, oh, you should do this, or like for this song you should do this, and um, kind of what it ended up leading into was like, you know, I'm pretty comfortable without an instrument. Like I can lead without an instrument and just grab a mic and go, and that's something that Andy's not as comfortable doing. And so and he's a exceptionally better guitar player than me.
Oh, he's killer.
Um, yeah, he's so good. And so I was like, I don't really want to play third acoustic. It's like we don't need that. And Brandon was like, so I just like during rehearsal kind of just grabbed the mic and was like, just kind of like what you would do on a Sunday if you were worship leader number two. Like you would just bring energy, move
Yeah.
around, and sing, and
Lead people in
we
worship.
yeah, lead people in worship. Yeah. And so, and it ended up being just like a really cool energy that I think the night needed, and I think that the band was kind of missing. And I think more so like Brandon fed off of it, and, um, it helped him out a lot knowing that I was back there, bringing energy too. And it's not just him on this huge stage having to manage the whole night.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it just kind of became like a perfect fit in a lot of ways, and um, that kind of turned into me and him talking about what's next for me, and just kind of share with him my dreams and aspirations and things I want to do, and um, yeah, and so that turned into kind of where we are now. So
That's so sweet. I think that's encouraging to people listening, even if they don't understand any of the music lingo that we're talking about right now. But just encouraging for them to
yeah,
know, like, I don't really know what my role is going to be. I don't know what assignment
mhm,
God is going to lead me to, but I know the primary call, and that's XYZ.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
know that if I trust him, he's going to do the work. He's going to put the people in my life. Like for you, that's Brandon Lake, but for someone else, that's their coworker or their best friend
yeah,
or,
or
you
their
know,
boss or
whatever.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, just God strategically putting people in our lives so that we can just say, okay, I don't know what my role is, but God, I trust you. And so I'm stepping into
yeah,
this. And my mind might be full of fear and doubt and uncertainty, but how big is my God? And
Yeah, and two, it just was like, you know, I was able to articulate clearly to Brandon like what I still felt like the Lord had for me. And I even though I'd had that conversation with the Lord a month ago, that was like, I'm down for not doing this anymore and to the capacity that I am. Um, but in the same breath, I still felt like, this is what I feel called to do.
yeah,
Um, it just does the capacity of it change? Does it look different? And so, um, through a bunch of conversation, he asked me if I wanted to be like his first artist that he signed. And so, um, that's kind of where we're at now is that started I like signed with him as his first artist under Lake House Records, and we're kind of building the plane in the air, if you will. It's
yeah.
it's kind of wild, but um, just add to the imposter syndrome of like, are you sure I'm the right guy for this? But um, just trusting the Lord in it and just
Wow.
trying to bring my best, and um, it's been cool to see people respond to some of the songs. I've only two songs out, but um, it's been cool to see the response to it, and just to have someone like Brandon like believe in you and um, want to invest in you is like it's just been a game changer. And my prayer of Lord, this has to look different. Um, this is the different.
Yeah.
It's allowed me to continue to pursue what I feel like He's called me to do in a way that's not detrimental to my family,
Wow.
and which was the biggest goal and the biggest prayer, and so he's answered that. And, a lot of people are probably like, who is this guy? How did he get here? And um, it's been, it's been a wild ride and not as easy maybe as it looks from the outside.
And the cool thing is that it's nowhere, at least from an outside perspective, it's nowhere close to being over. Like God
Yeah,
is just like the best days are yet to come for you.
I appreciate that.
And I
Thank you.
think that's a reminder to everybody listening that, you know, the best days are ahead and God still has calling for you. There's no expiration date.
Hmm.
And there's also like, you're not too young either. There's no junior Holy Spirit. There's no
Yeah,
expiration
absolutely.
date Holy Spirit.
Yeah, and there's plenty of people that like are in, our worlds that their whole career and their songwriting journey kicks off when they're 22, and um, which is amazing and it's great. And like everybody, like exactly what you said, like you're not too young. Just my journey has looked a little bit different, and I hope that my journey encourages people though to like one, it's like always be evaluating, but also like the calling can look multiple different ways in multiple different seasons.
Yeah.
Like in this season, yeah, it's like I got to go up and play two songs in front of thousands of people every night, but like, which is cool. But there's plenty of seasons where it was getting up and playing 10 songs in front of 20 people, and like, and leading 20 people in worship. And what I pray and I hope people get from me is that the effort and the desire to lead people doesn't change. Like
It's the
it's
same.
whether
Wow.
it's 10,000 people or whether it's 20 people, it's like I want to just send it and see what the Lord can do. You know what I mean? And um, so I think I'm grateful that I'm at the age and I've have the experience that I have because I'm not really like swooned by the arenas or like I mean it's cool and it's beautiful, it's awesome and it's like but if I was 22 and in front of an arena, I think I'd maybe be swooned by it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, I think it'd be a little more, we'd be dealing with different issues, but um, I'm grateful for the journey at this point. So,
Wow. That's cool. And it's been, man, it's ministered to us just even in this. Like, I'm super excited to see what comes from this. Like you
mhm.
said, only having two songs out right now,
Yeah.
and especially Can't Help But Praise has been ministering to us. We at the time of this recording, so we have a Thursday night service every
Hmm.
weekend, and then two campuses on Sunday mornings, and at all three of our types of service, we're kicking off with "Can't Help But Praise" this
That's
week.
awesome. I love
And
that.
so it's been ministering to us, but I'm just excited to see what God does from that, and what He has in store for you. And so another question I had is just like
Yeah.
after seeing the faithfulness of God
Hmm.
in taking that step, in surrendering and saying, God, I don't know what this is going to look like. I don't know
Hmm.
if I'm done, if you have more, but I'm, submitting it to you. And
Hmm.
then seeing the faithfulness of God, and he just keeps providing time and time again. How has that shaped now the way that you write songs, or the way that you lead worship, or the way that you do your ministry now?
It's a great question. Uh, I think the reality of it is it hasn't really changed much.
Yeah.
Um, I yeah, it's hard not to get like emotional, I guess, but um, it doesn't really change much. It's I mean, I've had insane moments leading worship with 6 people in the room, and
Wow.
insane moments of just me and him. And I think someone told me a long time ago that I've like kind of always stuck with. It's like you can't lead people where you've never been.
Mm.
And I always try to go there when it's just me and him. Try to like lead myself. And I just hope that that overflows into whatever room I'm in. Um, and so yeah, it's cool to see um, songs impacting people, and um, but like I don't lead worship any different, honestly. I think I lead exactly the same. Um, it's just a different, I mean, different capacity and different notoriety, I guess, or like, as the years go on, like, but yeah, I think that's like the like beauty of it is like not much has changed at all. Like my my desire to lead people is kind of exactly the same. It's just I'm different, like
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. Like he's pruned and shaped me, um, but like my passion and my heart and my desire to see the Lord like meet people where they need to be met through song and through worship. Um, it's it's the same since I was 16, like,
Yeah.
and I think that's part of I don't know. I think it probably bleeds into a lot of things, but I'm not trying to say that I've like been this like awesome worship leader my whole life. It's not that. I mean, I've definitely grown and evolved and gotten better in certain ways and more confident to lead in certain ways. But like I I just accredit so much to like sitting at the piano by myself when no one's home and
Mm.
like just singing and worshiping.
Those are the
And
best moments, man.
yeah, it's like if I can't go there, how do I expect to lead people to there? And so yeah.
Man, that's super sweet. Thanks for sharing that. And
Yeah, sorry. Got a little
no, don't
choked up.
apologize. You're making everybody watching cry too. So, but how can we be, you know, praying for you in this season as, you're just continuing to step into and walk into the calling that God has on your life? How can we be praying for you?
Yeah, it's great. Thank you for asking that. I think just, it's interesting. The it's like a very fruitful season in a lot of ways, and it's also like a touch confusing because I'm like a dad and I have like you're almost like I would kind of wish this happened when I was 25 because it's like you can just go and run and like, but there's a lot more hearts and souls at stake in my house than there was, before it was just a couple of dogs and me and my wife. And um, but I think it's just the balance of it all and just trying to um, keep husband and dad at the forefront. And but also like, I want my kids to see me run. I want my kids to see me like go for it and go for it because I believe the Lord's in it. And um, I want them to grow up and be able to be like, I want faith like dad. You know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
so I think, yeah, it's just an interesting little balance, I guess. But and just, I guess you could also pray for songs. I definitely want those, and definitely want the right ones, and the ones um, for the church and for people, and at the right time, like timely songs. And
Wow.
um, but yeah, I think those are probably the two big ones.
Yeah. Yeah, we want more songs too. So
Yeah.
start cranking them out.
Yeah. Working
But
on it.
yeah. Well, man, I appreciate you just taking the time and having this conversation
Oh, dude, thanks
and
for
blessing
asking me.
our
This is
people and
awesome.
yeah,
I love
so
talking about this stuff. So it's inspiring for me too to kind of relive some of it. And
yeah, for sure.
so,
That's awesome. Well, even for you guys that are listening, I hope this has been encouraging to you
yeah,
and just a reminder that God is always working in your life and that He has
absolutely.
a call on your life that He wants you to succeed and He wants the absolute best for you. And we just have to trust Him and depend on
Hmm.
Him. And so, Jordan, thanks for joining. You guys
Yeah, dude.
can support Jordan by listening to his music on Spotify and Apple Music, and any
Yeah.
way that you're listening to this podcast, you can listen to his new songs, Only One Name, Can't Help But Praise,
Yeah.
and any of the new ones that are to come. And so,
Hmm.
and just you guys that are watching, just remember that we always have an episode on Tuesdays. And we hope that you guys have a great week and that you're reminded that God is always working in your life beyond Sundays. And He is
Absolutely.
active and moving and He wants what's best for you. So, you guys have a great week and we'll see you next week.